Hi there, I'm Dr. Stephanie Falk. And recently I've put out a couple of videos on how to manage and mitigate some of the stress that comes with our current health crisis. And I wanted to talk a little bit more about just anxiety in general, and specifically a symptom of anxiety that we call ruminating. Ruminating is kind of an interesting word. What does it mean? Ruminating means that you continue to circle through the same exact thought over and over and over. And I think a lot of times people do it early in the morning, and a lot of times they circulate around a particular worry or fear or thought over and over, and they can't fall asleep. Or they wake up in the middle of the night and that's kind of the worry and thought that comes to them and they can't get it out of their head. It's a really difficult thing to be challenged with and is a common symptom of anxiety. And I think for a lot of people, it's really heightened right now in our health crisis. I work with people on a day-to-day basis that deal with depression or anxiety. And for a lot of people that deal with anxiety, ruminating has really spiked in their life right now. And it's something that they're challenged by a little bit more, or a lot more for some people. For people that don't struggle with anxiety, but are just feeling an overwhelming sense of stress given our current situation, I think some of them are experiencing ruminating as well. I know that that's been the case when I've talked to some family and friends. And so I thought that I would just address ruminating behavior and ways that we can combat it. So there's a couple of things that we can do. First, I think that what we can do is we can ask ourselves, with a given thought or fear that continues to circulate, is there something that I can do about it right here and now? Can I take different action? Maybe you're worried about getting the virus. And if that's the case, then perhaps you need to look at what are your protective practices? Are you washing your hands? Are you using sanitizer? Are you keeping 6 feet away from other people? If you're doing these things, then maybe look at other ways that you could potentially take some action. And if you're not acting in ways that allow you to feel safe and comfortable, then do something a little bit different. Allow yourself to feel empowered by taking some different action. But if you land on this idea that, you know what, I'm doing all that I need to be doing and I really can't do anything different, then you've got to remind yourself, I am doing what I need to be doing. And this is simply a worry that I'm having. I don't have any more control here. And I've got to figure out a way to kind of put it on a shelf. So what I would encourage you doing is, after you've asked that question and landed on no, there's nothing different that I can do right here, right now at 10 o'clock at night, then imagine yourself taking that worry, holding it, picking it up carefully, because we want to honor the fact that you're stressed and you're worried. But then imagine yourself visually placing it on a shelf. See if that helps. See if it gives you a little bit of relief. Tip number 2, establish a worry time. I think that it can sound a little bit counterintuitive, but what you really want to do is you want to carve out, this is my specific time to give myself and allow myself permission to think about all of the worries and all of the thoughts and the fears that I have. And I really like the idea of journaling. You've got to experiment with it a little bit, because journaling for some people can actually heighten their anxiety, but for the majority of people, I think that it allows them to have a safe outlet and time and space to process things that they need to process. This is a really tough time. So take some time with that ruminating thought. Maybe it's fear over getting the virus. Maybe it's fear around the financial ramifications or burden that you're experiencing. Write all of those things down. Allow yourself that 10-minute increment, and then close the book on your worry journal, your worry book that you're keeping, and walk away. Do something different. Third, it's to distract yourself. Sometimes distraction is really the best kind of coping as it relates to ruminating. And I think distraction kind of gets a bad rap among therapists sometimes, and among just people in general, that if you're distracting, you're really not dealing with things. I think for ruminating thoughts that are not helpful, that are actually counterproductive, especially when you've asked yourself the question, is there anything that I can do? I think distraction is a really good way to cope with it. So get involved in something in your house, or if you're out and about on a walk by yourself, try to focus on kind of the world around you. Distract yourself in a way that feels meaningful and good. And I think, kind of legging up on this idea of distraction, one of the ways that we can also cope is to be incredibly present and to ground yourself in the here and now. If you can really ground yourself in the here and now, then ultimately you can't do two things at once. So if you focus on maybe a painting or a tree or a flower, and you kind of go over every little detail, it allows you to have some relief from that circling thought or worry that is going around and around in your head. It gives you some time and space. Another thing that you can do is to really be present in a relationship, to be engaged in a conversation. And that's actually one of the best ways to combat anxiety in general, is to allow yourself to figure out ways that you can be really present relationally. Because you can't be empathic, understanding, engaged, conversational, and hold a worry in your head at the same time. You have to pick one or the other. And so that's why being present in a relationship can be incredibly useful. So again, just kind of let me reiterate what those tips are. Number one, ask yourself, is there something that I can do about this worry in the here and now? And if there isn't, imagine yourself visually putting that worry on a shelf. Number two, establish a daily worry time in which you allow yourself to write down into journal about those specific ruminating thoughts. So you're calling them forth rather than them just kind of plaguing you. Tip number three, find ways to distract yourself when you're having those ruminating thoughts. Get engaged in a household task. Get engaged in a good book or a movie or music, something that can really distract you, something that's meaningful for you. Tip number four, ground yourself in the present moment. Potentially that's looking at the world around you and trying to fine detail something that's in your vicinity. So you're fine detailing a picture. You're looking at all of the color, all of the brush strokes, or you're looking at a tree as it waves in the wind and you're trying to understand how those branches and leaves are coordinated together. Or you're grounding yourself in a relationship that really matters. You're being present and conversational. I hope that it's been helpful to listen to these tips that can help alleviate some of ruminating behaviors and thoughts. It's incredibly difficult thing to be plagued with, but I understand that a lot of people have really peaked sense of stress and anxiety. It makes sense, and I think we've got to kind of find ways to grapple with that are useful. So again, I hope that one of these tips can help you out. I appreciate you tuning in, and if you don't want to miss a video, feel free to subscribe. I hope that this video finds you having an absolutely wonderful day. Thank you.